I never thought I'd live to tell this story. Even now, as I sit here, my hands trembling, the memories clawing at the edges of my mind, I wonder if it was all real. But it was. Every second of it. And I need to tell you. Because if I don't, it'll eat me alive from the inside. This is the story of what happened to me in the wilderness. A place where the trees whispered, the shadows moved, and something far worse waited for me. It started with a simple plan. I needed to get away. Life had been a mess. Work, relationships, everything crumbling around me. I thought a solo camping trip would clear my head. Just me, my backpack, and the quiet of the woods. I chose a remote area deep in the national forest, a place where few people ventured. No cell service, no trails, just raw, untouched wilderness. I thought it was exactly what I needed. The first day was fine. The air was crisp. The sun filtered through the trees and the sound of birdsong filled the air. I set up camp near a small stream, the water clear and cold. I felt at peace for the first time in months. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, something changed. The woods grew quiet. Too quiet. No birds, no rustling leaves, just an eerie stillness that made my skin crawl. I told myself it was nothing, just the wilderness being the wilderness. But that night I heard it. A sound that didn't belong. A low, guttural growl far off in the distance. It wasn't an animal I recognized. It was deeper, heavier, like the rumble of thunder but alive. I sat up in my tent, my heart pounding, straining to hear more, but the sound didn't come again. I told myself it was my imagination, but sleep didn't come easy. The next morning, I woke to find my campsite disturbed. My food bag, which I'd hung from a tree branch, was torn open. The contents were scattered, some of it eaten, some of it just gone. But what really got to me were the footprints. They were large, too large to be a bear, and the shape was wrong. They looked almost human, but not quite. The toes were too long, the arch too high, and there were only 3 toes. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a deformed animal, or maybe the prints were old and distorted by the weather. But deep down I knew better. Something had been here. Something had been watching me. I packed up my gear and decided to move deeper into the woods. I told myself it was to find a better campsite, but really I just wanted to put distance between me and whatever had been at my camp. The forest grew. Thicker as I hiked, the trees towering overhead, their branches twisting together like skeletal fingers. The sunlight barely reached the ground, and the air felt heavy, oppressive. By midday, I found a new spot. It was a small clearing, surrounded by dense underbrush. I set up my tent, trying to shake the feeling that I was being watched. But the feeling didn't go away. It clung to me like a second skin. That night, the growl came again. Closer this time. Much closer. I gripped my knife, my breath shallow, my eyes fixed on the tent flap. The sound lasted longer this time, rising and falling in a way that made my stomach churn. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The next few days blurred together. The growling came every night, always closer, always louder. I started seeing things out of the corner of my eye. Shadows moving where there shouldn't be shadows. Shapes that didn't belong. Once, I swear I saw a figure standing between the trees, tall and thin, its limbs too long, its head tilted, at an unnatural angle. But when I turned to look, it was gone. I tried to leave. I packed up my gear and started hiking back the way I came. But the woods, they didn't let me go. The trails I thought I knew twisted and turned, leading me in circles. The landmarks I'd marked were gone or moved or replaced by something else. I was lost. Hopelessly, utterly lost. And then, on the 5th night, it found me. I was sitting by my campfire, trying to stay awake when I heard it. Not the growl this time, but footsteps. Slow, deliberate, crunching through the underbrush. My heart raced as I grabbed my knife. My eyes darting around the clearing. The footsteps stopped just outside the ring of firelight. I could feel it there, just beyond the edge of the darkness, watching me. "Who's there?" I called, my voice shaking. There was no answer, just silence, and then a sound that froze my blood. A laugh, low, rasping, and utterly inhuman. It wasn't a sound that belonged in this world. It was wrong, twisted, and it filled me with a terror I can't describe. I don't remember running. I just remember the trees whipping past me, the sound of my own breath ragged in my ears. I ran until my legs gave out, collapsing in a heap on the forest floor. When I finally looked up, I was in a part of the woods I didn't recognize. The trees here were different, blackened, twisted, their branches clawing at the sky like they were in pain. The air was thick with the smell of rot, and the ground was soft, squelching under my feet. And then I saw it. It stood at the edge of the clearing, its form shifting, changing, like it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. It was tall, too tall, its limbs stretching out like spider legs. Its skin was pale, almost translucent, and its eyes, God, its eyes. They were black, empty, but somehow filled with a malice that made my soul shrivel. It tilted its head, those two long fingers twitching, and it spoke. "You shouldn't have. Come here." The voice was wrong. It was too many voices at once, layered over each other, some high, some low, some not even human. It echoed in my head, bouncing around like it was trying to burrow into my brain. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I tried to move, but my body wouldn't obey. I was frozen, helpless, as it stepped closer. Its movements were jerky, unnatural, like it was learning how to use its body. It leaned down, its face inches from mine, and I could smell its breath, decay, earth, and something sweet, like rotting fruit. "You're mine now," it whispered. And then it was gone. I don't know how I got out of the woods. I remember running, stumbling, falling, until I finally collapsed on the side of a road. A passing ranger found me, half dead and babbling incoherently. They took me to a hospital where I spent weeks recovering. Physically, I was fine, but mentally, I'll never be the same. I've tried to tell people what happened, but no one believes me. They say it was just a bear, or a mountain lion, or my mind playing tricks on me. But I know what I saw. I know what's out there, in the wilderness, and I know it's still waiting. Sometimes at night I hear the growl. It's faint, far away, but it's there, and I know it's not in my head, it's real, it's coming for me, and one day it will find me again. So if you ever find yourself in the wilderness alone, and you hear something that doesn't belong, run. Don't look back, just run. Because there are things in this world that we're not meant to see. Things that don't belong here. And once they see you, they never let go.